If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 21. Natsuki's gaze drifted slightly downward to Chika's chest. The little bunny bouncing around was pretty cute. In a sense, that could be considered pudding, right? No pudding. Kaguya gently rubbed her eyebrows and let out a sigh, suddenly understanding the helplessness and grief of Zhuge-Liang. Stars falling in the autumn wind at Wuzang Plains. Just as the 7-star lamp was about to extend its life, Wei Yan kicked it over, causing it to fail. Prime Minister Zhuge must have felt exactly as she did now. The great cause unaccomplished, Shu Han yet to rise. How frustrating! Chika, remember to knock before entering next time, Kaguya said, clenching her fists. Got it. I promise I'll remember. Chika walked over, obedient as a husky, picked up the chocolate bar from earlier, and started munching. Kaguya, go ahead. There's still time to try again. No, I can't, Natsuki shook his head, rubbing his eyes. My eyes hurt. What? Natsuki's exhausted already. Chika looked over, surprised. It's only been a few minutes. You're so weak. Oh, come on. How is a few minutes weak? The silverback gorilla, Earth's strongest primate, only lasts a few tens of seconds. Well, this is staring we're talking about. Anyone who can stare for 10 minutes straight is inhuman. Chika continued. When I'm thinking about something, I often don't blink for hours. You're full of it. The Guinness World Record for not blinking is only 2 hours. If you can do it for several hours, you could easily break the world record. Blinking is an involuntary human behavior, like breathing. It doesn't require thought or effort, Natsuki explained to the clueless girl. Actually, humans blink more than 10 times a minute, but most people don't notice or keep count. I can literally go hours without blinking. Chika lay on the table, holding up her eyelids. Her pink eyes were wide and bright, full of confidence. If you don't believe me, Natsuki, we can test it right now. Let's head back to class, Kaguya said, gently pressing her brow. Her voice returned to its cool, clear tone. Your eyes really need a rest. Oh, all right, Chika agreed reluctantly. Natsuki and the two girls left the board game club and returned to the classroom. The 4 morning classes flew by. At lunch break, they only had 50 minutes. Kaguya and Chika ate the bento they'd brought, while Natsuki went to the school cafeteria. They didn't have a chance to attempt the task again at noon. Before they knew it, it was time to go home. Kaguya, we can't use the activity room anymore. Everyone will be there for club activities, Chika suggested. Why don't you and Natsuki stay in the classroom to do the mission? That works, Kaguya nodded slightly. I've got to head to the board game club, so I'll leave first, Chika waved as she walked out the door. Good luck, you two. Remember to knock, Natsuki reminded her. Don't just barge in. Got it. Chika raised her hand in a salute. Only Natsuki and Kaguya were left in the classroom. Natsuki stood up and walked over to Kaguya, sitting down at the desk in front of the Ice Queen. The 3 of them were classmates. Kaguya and Chika shared a desk, while Maiko and Ishigami were in another class. Now, Natsuki and Kaguya sat facing each other across the desk. Kaguya, should we start now? Natsuki asked. Kaguya replied calmly, let's begin. Their eyes met. The classroom quickly fell silent. Bright sunshine streamed through the windows, forming a glowing pathway in the air. A gentle breeze blew. Someone's forgotten textbook rustled softly in the wind. Natsuki silently gazed into the girl's beautiful ruby eyes, his mind empty as he entered a meditative state. Unfortunately, not everyone could stay so calm. After a while, a faint blush quietly appeared on Kaguya's pretty face. Come on, it hasn't even been a minute. Why are you blushing again? If this keeps up, you'll lose your Ice Queen image. Time ticked by silently. This time, with the desk between them, the distance didn't shrink quietly like it had that morning. Just as the mission was about to be completed, the buzzing of an insect's wings suddenly broke the silence. Hey! The girl's long, slightly curled eyelashes suddenly trembled. Bug, bug, bug. When she felt an insect land on her head, Kaguya suddenly panicked. Don't move, Natsuki quickly called out. It's just a little ladybug. He'd held out for so long, and victory was in sight. If she moved now, all their efforts would be wasted and they'd have to start over. Natsuki absolutely didn't want to do it again. The soreness in his eyes was really uncomfortable. Ladybugs are still bugs, Kaguya said through gritted teeth, her body tense. It's just a harmless little ladybug. What bad intentions could it have? Natsuki tried to reassure her. It won't bite, and it's not poisonous. Try not to worry about it, Kaguya. How can I not care? Kaguya wanted to hit something, clenching her fists. It feels awful having bugs crawl through my hair. Kaguya really didn't dare move now. The mission was almost complete, and her eyes were at their limit. If she moved, she'd probably blink uncontrollably. But, having a bug crawl in your hair was terrible. Every second was torture. Can you still move your hands? Kaguya suddenly asked. Yeah, Natsuki nodded. Help me get rid of the bug. Kaguya bit her lower lip hard. If she couldn't hold on any longer, she'd never ask others for help. No problem. Natsuki agreed. While maintaining eye contact, he leaned forward slightly, stretching out his right hand to gently place it on top of Kaguya's head. The soft, silky feel of her hair against his fingertips sent a pleasant sensation through his mind. The little ladybug sensed danger and began to scurry faster. Natsuki didn't dare make any big movements. Watching the ladybug's path from the corner of his eye, he finally caught it just before reaching his limit. Phew! Kaguya breathed a sigh of relief. Natsuki felt relieved too. His right hand still on top of the Ice Queen's head, he absent-mindedly patted her hair. The air suddenly went still. Kaguya's eyes widened slightly, confusion flashing across them at first, then turning to disbelief. I asked you to catch a bug, but you took the chance to pat my head. How dare you? But, his palm is so warm. Is this what a boy's hand feels like? I've never felt such warmth on my head before. Thump thump thump. Kaguya's heart raced in her chest. She could clearly hear her own rapid heartbeat. How strange. Why is my heart beating so fast? I don't understand. I can't figure it out. The only thing I'm sure of is that I don't seem to hate this feeling. Crash. The door suddenly burst open. Natsuki thought it was Chika, but then an unfamiliar exclamation echoed through the classroom. Natsuki and Kaguya. You two are actually. Not that airhead Chika. The already nervous Kaguya was startled and turned her head to look. A girl from their class had come in through the front door. Seeing Natsuki and Kaguya sitting opposite each other, with him touching her head in what looked like an affectionate gesture, the girl leaned against the door frame, hands covering her mouth in disbelief. Stare. Kaguya's eyes were sharp, like a falcon spotting a hare on the ground. I'm so sorry. The short-haired girl trembled in fear, eyes filling with tears as she crouched down, hands over her head. I didn't know you two were dating. I'm so sorry for barging in. Please don't kill me. There's no secret to hide, why would I kill you? Don't worry, I'm not going to kill anyone. Natsuki closed his eyes and started massaging them. They were sore and uncomfortable. Not blinking for 10 minutes sounds easy, but it's actually quite challenging. Kashiwagi, what did you need? Kaguya crossed her arms over her chest, her tone icy. Chapter 22. Damn it, all that effort for nothing, Natsuki grumbled, running a hand through his hair. The mission got ruined at the last second. A timid voice piped up from the doorway. I am so sorry. A short-haired girl stood there, fidgeting nervously. I forgot my keys in class. I'll grab them and go. I didn't mean to interrupt. Hold it. Kaguya's cool voice cut through the air. The girl froze, turning back with fear in her eyes. Kaguya pinched the bridge of her nose, eyes closed. This is a public space. Just get your keys and leave. Oh. Thank you, Kaguya. The girl's face lit up. She scurried to her desk, snatched her keys, then bowed deeply. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about you two. Your secret's safe with me. Natsuki's eyes flew open. Wait, what? We're not dating. Don't go spreading rumors. Kaguya crossed her arms, her face a mask of indifference. We are not in a relationship. The short-haired girl tilted her head, a mischievous glint in her eye. But I saw Natsuki touching Kaguya's head just now. So what? Natsuki protested. That doesn't mean anything. If touching someone's head means dating, then I guess touching their feet means you have to marry them. You're mistaken, Kaguya said, her tone growing dangerous. The girl paled. Sorry. My mistake. She bolted from the room. Once they were alone, Natsuki sighed, showing Kaguya the ladybug in his palm before tossing it out the window. Well, that's that. Mission failed, hey. Indeed. We'll have to try again, Natsuki mused. But the classroom's risky. It's not long after school more people might come back. Kaguya frowned slightly, considering their options. Let's take a break, she finally said, her voice steady despite the lingering blush on her cheeks. We'll regroup in half an hour. Natsuki nodded, pulling out a book to pass the time. 30 minutes flew by. The school grew quiet, the hallways empty. Ready to try again? Natsuki asked. Let's do it. Their eyes met. The nervousness of their first attempt had faded, replaced by determination. Natsuki found himself admiring Kaguya's ruby-red eyes, no longer seeing her as an ice queen. A faint blush crept across Kaguya's pale skin. This time, there were no interruptions. Mission accomplished. Natsuki stood, stretching. My eyes are killing me. I'm heading home, Kaguya. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, she murmured. As Natsuki left, a blonde girl with a side ponytail slipped silently into the room, a lollipop tucked in her cheek. Her movements were stealthy, almost cat-like. Miss, it's time to go, the blonde girl said, twirling her lollipop. Kaguya rubbed her temples, her voice cool. Did you get the information I asked for? Right here. The girl pulled a file from her bag. Kaguya's eyes flickered to the photo of Natsuki on top. Age, birthday, address, family, all there. Childhood sweetheart. Kaguya's eyebrows arched slightly. That's Maiko. She's in my class, the blonde explained. Natsuki's neighbor and old classmate. They're pretty close. Might end up dating, who knows? Kaguya frowned, silent. The blonde pulled out 2 books. Found these while snooping. Thought you might be interested. What are they? Kaguya's eyes widened as she read the titles, The Manual for Developing a Loyal Boyfriend and 100 Days to Make a Rich Tokyo Woman Fall for Me. They actually publish stuff like this? Kaguya exclaimed. Supply and demand, the blonde shrugged, licking her lollipop casually. There was also your guide to winning over the wife next door. Hold up, that last one's definitely crossing a line. Details, details, the blonde waved her hand. You're new to this love game, Kaguya. You need all the help you can get. Otherwise, you might lose your boy to someone else. Kaguya's cheeks flushed. Don't be ridiculous. I don't like him. Yelling doesn't make it true, the blonde smirked, leaning against the doorframe. You've barely eaten lately. And those dark circles under your eyes? Dead giveaway. That's because. Kaguya bit her lip. She'd told her friend about the weird incident from 2 days ago, but without proof, her words fell flat. It was frustrating, to say the least. Let's just go home, Kaguya sighed, her tone softening. The blonde girl held out the book. Want to read this? If not, I'll toss it. Kaguya hesitated, then silently took the book and slipped it into her bag. Don't litter, she said coolly. Meanwhile, on the way home, Natsuki ran into Maiko and Hana by chance. Hey, Natsuki. Hana waved cheerfully. Want to study together again today? Maiko yawned, dark circles prominent under her eyes. Rough night? Natsuki asked, concerned. You have no idea, Maiko muttered. She couldn't exactly explain about the many-eyed spirit that had crawled under her bed last night. Sleep had been elusive. As they approached Natsuki's house, Hana piped up. Let's study at your place today. Natsuki hesitated. I don't know. Come on, we're friends. Hana grinned, linking arms with Maiko. Plus, Maiko's here. You won't try anything funny. Maiko's eyes narrowed. Don't drag me into this. I'm staying out of it. Natsuki sighed, unlocking the door. Fine. Slippers are in the cabinet. Inside, Hana politely arranged everyone's shoes while Maiko headed straight for her usual fish-shaped slippers. Drinks? Natsuki asked, opening the fridge. We've got barley tea, oolong, or cola. He froze. There, nestled between the milk and leftovers, was a ghostly human head. Natsuki's heart skipped a beat. Barley for me. Oolong, please. The girls called out their choices, oblivious. Natsuki's face went blank as he activated his spirit-repelling aura. The ghostly head let out a hollow wail before dissipating into mist. Seriously? Natsuki thought. Breaking in is one thing, but haunting the fridge? That's just rude. He handed out the drinks and led the girls upstairs to his room. Wow, it's so clean. Hana marveled, looking around. I kinda expected it to be a mess. Chapter 23. Natsuki dragged a folding table from the balcony. Just cleaned yesterday, actually. Oh. Hana raised an eyebrow. Usually it's a disaster zone, Natsuki shrugged. Can't take a step without tripping over something. Weird stuff happens all the time, too. Weird stuff. Hana's eyes widened. Like what? Natsuki lowered his voice dramatically. Not long ago, I woke up and something important was missing. Door was locked, windows shut tight. No sign of a break-in. But this thing? Vanished into thin air. A G-ghost. Hana whispered. Maiko rolled her eyes. What did you lose? Excellent question, Natsuki said, face serious. I got up, got dressed, and found only one sock. The other? Gone. Searched everywhere. A sock. Hana exclaimed. That's what this is about. What did you think it was? Natsuki asked innocently. Hana puffed up her cheeks. Natsuki, you jerk. Hey, I didn't lie, he grinned. Vanishing socks are one of the top 3 supernatural events in daily life. What are the other 2? Hana asked, curiosity getting the better of her. Natsuki met her gaze. You really want to know? Hana nodded eagerly. Natsuki pulled out his textbook. Not telling. Maiko. Hana whined. Natsuki's being mean. Do something. Maiko, sprawled on the table like a limp fish, mumbled, sorry, too tired to care. As they studied, Maiko's eyelids grew heavy. Soon, she was fast asleep at the table. Poor thing, Hana whispered. Let's let her rest, okay. Natsuki nodded. No point waking her up, it's not like they were in an exam. Maiko's been having a rough time, Hana continued softly. She's so distracted in class, always nodding off. But she fights sleep like it's her enemy. I'm glad she's finally getting some rest. Natsuki looked at Hana, surprised. This girl noticed way more than he'd given her credit for. You're staring, Natsuki, Hana pouted. Thinking something rude, aren't you? Natsuki ignored her, grabbing a blanket from the closet and gently draping it over Maiko. Ah, that's sweet of you, Hana whispered. Natsuki shrugged. It's getting chilly. Let's keep studying. Hana scooted closer, mindful of Maiko. Help me with this one? There are 9 lit candles, you blow out 5. How many are left? I said 4, but the answer's 5. Why? As Hana leaned in, Natsuki found his gaze drawn to her chest, which was pressed against the table. He mentally scolded himself. Sit up straight, he muttered. You'll hurt your back. Time passed, and the room grew dim. What time is it? Hana asked, noticing the darkening sky. 5:10, Natsuki replied, checking his phone. Guess we should head home, Hana yawned, stretching. PE class today. My shoulders are killing me. Can't wait for a hot bath. Natsuki doubted PE was the real culprit for her shoulder pain, but kept that thought to himself. Suddenly, Hana let out a small cry. Something small and dark whizzed past Natsuki's face, grazing his cheek. What the? He touched his face, confused. Hana's face was bright red as she clutched at her collar. Natsuki's eyes widened as he realized her shirt was gaping open, revealing more than it should. I'm so sorry. Hana stammered, mortified. I stretched too hard and my button flew off, again. Again. Natsuki raised an eyebrow. This happens often. I'm so sorry. Hana exclaimed, still clutching her collar. Natsuki rubbed his cheek. It's fine. The button bounced under the bed. I'll get it. Hana insisted, kneeling to peer under the bed. Natsuki averted his eyes, realizing her position was compromising. Wait, I can. It's too dark, Hana said. Could you shine your foam light under there? Natsuki nodded, crouching to illuminate the space. I see it. Hana exclaimed. It's way in the back. Before Natsuki could suggest using a broom or hanger, Hana wriggled under the bed. Got it. She called. As she tried to back out, she let out a small yelp. Natsuki? I'm stuck. My uniform caught on something. Natsuki sighed. Hold still. Let me see. He carefully examined where her clothing had snagged, trying to maintain her dignity. There's a nail, he explained. Don't move, I'll unhook you. Oh okay, Hana stammered. Be careful. Natsuki gently freed her uniform. All right, you should be good now. Come out slowly. A moment later, Hana emerged, hair mussed and face flushed. She flopped onto the bed, catching her breath. That was more of an adventure than I bargained for, she said with a nervous laugh. Maybe next time we use a broom, Natsuki suggested dryly. Thanks for your help. As Natsuki let out a sigh of relief, an unbelievable voice reached his ears. What are you doing? Maiko was stunned, doubting her own eyes. Wake up. Her good friend was disheveled, face flushed, tears in her eyes, lying on the bed looking distressed. Her childhood friend had his right hand on her best friend's waist, as if trying to get closer. In this situation, Maiko suddenly thought of a TV drama plot. My husband is currently. No, I'm a girl, so am I the wife? Even though they weren't dating, it was too much for her childhood friend and best friend to do that in front of her. Ah! Maiko, listen to my explanation. Lily suddenly opened her eyes wide, her already red face growing even hotter, steam practically rising from her head. It's not what it looks like. Looking at the exposed skin on her best friend's chest, Maiko's mouth twitched slightly, and she raised her hand to cover her forehead. Lily, put your clothes on first. I'm sorry, my clothes are damaged, the blonde girl said, eyes misty with shame. Hearing this, Maiko paused for a moment and silently turned to look at Natsuki. It has nothing to do with me, Natsuki quickly raised his hands in innocence. Just listen to my explanation. Actually, let Lily explain it. The suspect's defense seemed totally unreliable. Lily covered her chest with her hands and began to narrate tearfully. Looking at the button lying in her friend's palm, Maiko let out a sigh of relief. With witnesses and evidence, it seemed she had indeed misunderstood. Natsuki sighed quietly, it hurts to be wrongly accused by those closest to you. Maiko's pretty face flushed slightly. I didn't say anything just now. Natsuki retorted, a suspicious look is scarier than an accusation. Get out. Maiko sat up straight and pointed to the door. And bring me the sewing kit. After Natsuki found the sewing kit and gave it to Maiko, he was quickly kicked out of the room again. A moment later, two girls came downstairs. Lily's buttons had been sewn back on, but to be safe, she still covered her collar, a blush on her face as she whispered, Goodbye Natsuki, I'm going home. Natsuki nodded. See you tomorrow. I'm leaving too, Maiko said, grabbing her school bag and following her friend. No words were spoken that night. The next day in the classroom, Chika approached Natsuki, holding her school bag with both hands. Good morning, Natsuki. As expected of a socially skilled girl, she'd smoothly transitioned from calling him Amamiya-san to Natsuki-san over the past 2 days, and now to the familiar Natsuki. It sounded quite natural. Morning. Natsuki looked up at Chika's face, slightly surprised. Why do you have dark circles under your eyes? Hearing this, Chika bit her lower lip, looking aggrieved. Last night while I was sleeping, a super scary ghost suddenly appeared by my bed and kept staring at me. I tried changing rooms, but it followed me. It was terrifying, and I couldn't sleep at all. As they were talking, Kaguya walked into the classroom. Kaguya, you lied. Wearing an eye patch didn't work, Chika said, looking pitifully at the ice-cold girl. That vengeful spirit kept staring at me. I could feel it on my skin. I never said the eye patch was 100% effective, Kaguya replied coldly. It was just a suggestion. Natsuki looked at Kaguya. After not seeing her for a night, her dark circles showed no signs of fading. She clearly hadn't slept well either. Time to open the blind box. Chika clenched her fists, cheering herself up. Before I left this morning, I watched a horoscope show. The host said my fortune today is great. Kaguya's eyelashes trembled slightly as she thought of yesterday's interesting task. She couldn't help biting her lower lip. Fraud. Astrology isn't reliable at all. Chika quickly bought today's blind box. Upon opening it, a faint golden light flickered, immediately catching Natsuki and Kaguya's attention. Golden light? Could it be the legendary item? 10 times critical strike. Congratulations, you get 100 game coins. Natsuki looked at Chika in surprise. Just by opening a blind box, she got a 10 times critical hit. Was she some kind of Destiny's Child? As it stood, game coins were quite valuable. Natsuki and Kaguya had completed the novice mission and each got 10 game coins. After finishing the School of Vengeful Spirits, they only got 70 game coins in total. All their hard work wasn't worth as much as one of Chika's blind boxes. Chika blinked. I guess I'm lucky, right? Kaguya bit her lower lip silently. Not fair. Yesterday the fortune teller said she'd have good luck, so why was her task so awful? Was someone targeting her? Natsuki, what's in your blind box? Chika looked over expectantly. Natsuki agreed and purchased today's blind box from the mall. He'd checked this morning, the item was a prop, not a vengeful spirit. Unfortunately, he didn't know exactly what it was. After opening the blind box, Natsuki only felt his palm sink slightly. Hey, is that a comb? Chika asked curiously. Kaguya whispered, an ordinary comb. It should be, not ordinary, Natsuki replied with a subtle tone, quickly showing the comb's properties to the two girls. Props, blood-stained comb. This is a Showa-era comb. The previous owner was a barber who gave customers middle-parted hairstyles for 30 years. The middle parting technique is imprinted in the comb. As long as the target has hair, it can force them to have a middle-parted hairstyle. Note, don't leave, let me give you a middle part. The era of middle parts is over, Chika complained. This comb is useless. I object. Even if it's useless, we can still put it to good use, Natsuki said seriously. If we're ever in an extremely cold environment, we can use it as firewood. Chika retorted, such a small comb isn't enough for burning. This comb has no usage conditions. It can be used anytime, anywhere. Natsuki looked at the girls with interest. Want to try it? I refuse. Chika quickly covered her bangs and stepped back. I don't want a middle part. What about you, Kaguya? Natsuki looked at the ice-cold girl. Want to try a middle part? Kaguya crossed her arms, smiling sweetly. Natsuki, you're very cute. I'm sorry, I take that back. No one was willing to try the middle part comb. Soon, it was Kaguya's turn for the blind box. The blind box disappeared. Kaguya's hands were empty. Natsuki raised an eyebrow, somewhat skeptical. Kaguya, did you win the prize again? Kaguya bit her lip, feeling aggrieved. Congratulations, you've obtained the interesting task, kill 100 people. Fun mission, kill hundreds of people. Task, it's time to show your real strength. Defeat 100 opponents by force before 2400 hours today and let your reputation spread far and wide. Reward, exclusive bound equipment failure penalty, hearing sealed for 24 hours. Note, the reward is very valuable, don't miss it. Note, cheating prohibited. Ensure fair duels. Secret collusion, bribery, etc. will invalidate defeats. Kaguya, are you okay? Chika asked cautiously. Apart from biting her lip slightly, Kaguya showed no abnormality. Her expression was calm as she said, I'm fine. That's good, Chika sighed in relief. 2 days of strange missions in a row, if it were me, I'd probably cry. You've been fooled. The Ice Queen is just good at managing her expressions. She appears calm, but she's not calm at all inside. Natsuki looked at Kaguya and could clearly see words gushing out above her head. It's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. Why me again? I feel like someone is secretly targeting me. Chapter 24. Chika tapped her chin thoughtfully. You know, there are 2 days of missions coming up. Kaguya, your horoscope might just happen to fall on a Mercury retrograde day. She grinned mischievously. Remember to watch that fortune-telling show on NHK when you head out tomorrow morning. Kaguya rolled her eyes. I watched one of those shows yesterday, and it was completely useless. Natsuki, ever the pragmatist, cut in. Let's focus on how we're actually going to complete this task. Chika nodded, her expression turning serious. Right, right. Defeating 100 people, it always sounds a bit. Their eyes met, and both Natsuki and Chika quickly looked away. They'd been down this road before. Kaguya furrowed her brow, deep in thought. It would be so much easier if we could just bribe the opponents. She sighed, remembering her family's influence. If there weren't rules against cheating, taking out 100 or even 1,000 people in a day would be child's play. Suddenly, Chika's eyes lit up. I've got it. She thrust her hand into the air excitedly. What about rock paper scissors? Natsuki shook his head skeptically. That doesn't sound very reliable. Why don't you try it first and see if it meets the requirements? Alright, let's duel, Kaguya. Chika said, striking a dramatic pose. Kaguya hesitated but figured there was no harm in trying. To her dismay, she lost 5 games in a row. Chika blinked in surprise. Wow, I won again? Maybe that horoscope show was right, I really am lucky today. As Chika basked in her victory, Kaguya began to question everything she knew about luck. Natsuki stepped in. Let me give it a shot. Chika seems to be on a roll today. It's probably best if you don't play against her, Kaguya. Kaguya bit her lip and nodded, turning to face Natsuki for a round of rock-paper-scissors. After their match, Chika looked over expectantly. Well? How'd it go? Kaguya shook her head, her expression carefully neutral. It didn't work. The game doesn't meet the task requirements. Chika's brow furrowed as she thought hard. Suddenly, her face lit up again. I've got it. Kaguya, you're an amazing archer. How about entering an archery competition? Kaguya sighed, shaking her head. An archery competition would give me a good chance of completing the mission, but my stamina just won't allow it. Despite her many talents, Kaguya had her weaknesses. As a young lady with a packed schedule of refined activities, she rarely had time for physical exercise. In gaming terms, she'd be a high-attack, low-defense character easily taken out with a single hit. She'd already considered various sports-related duels, but her lack of physical endurance forced her to reject them all. Even in archery, where she excelled, she couldn't imagine lasting a full day without her arm giving out. Chika's eyes lit up with another idea. Oh! What about shogi? Kaguya, you're brilliant at both shogi and go. Surely you could defeat 100 people in a day at that. Natsuki looked thoughtful. The mission calls for a display of force, though. Chess is more about intelligence. Still, it's worth a try. I think there's a shogi set in the board game club's drawer, Chika said eagerly. Should we go check it out? The trio made their way to the club room. Chika found the shogi set, and she and Kaguya began a match. In less than 10 minutes, Kaguya had thoroughly defeated her friend. Kaguya frowned. It still doesn't work. Chika flopped onto the table, dejected. I'm all out of ideas. After a moment of silence, Natsuki spoke up. I might have a solution that could work. Chika perked up immediately. Really? What is it, Natsuki? Tell us quick. Have either of you played arcade fighting games? Natsuki asked. Chika shook her head. I've heard of them, but never played. Kaguya crossed her arms. I've never even heard of such a thing. Natsuki nodded, unsurprised. It made sense that neither of these well-bred girls would have experience with arcade games. That's okay, he explained. They're fighting games played on machines in arcades. It's a one-on-one fair duel, a real test of skill and reflexes. It might just meet the mission requirements. We won't know until we try, Chika mused. Natsuki continued, there's a game center on my way to school. We could head over now and check it out. If it doesn't work, we can think of something else. Sounds perfect. Chika exclaimed. Let's skip class, Kaguya. Natsuki sighed. We don't need to skip. If we hurry, we can check it out and still make it to class on time. Kaguya hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right. Let's go to the game center. The trio left the classroom and headed towards the school gate, walking against the flow of students entering the building. Their unusual behavior drew curious glances from their classmates. Chika's eyes sparkled with excitement. This feels like we're actually skipping class. It's thrilling. Kaguya raised an eyebrow. Chika, have you ever actually skipped class before? Well, Chika grinned proudly, I did skip PE once last summer. It was so hot, I only ran one lap before hiding in a corner. Kaguya's expression softened. Oh, Chika, you're adorable. Natsuki nodded in agreement but subtly distanced himself from the girls. He'd read somewhere that spending too much time with less intellectually inclined individuals could be detrimental. Better safe than sorry. Chika noticed Natsuki falling behind. Hey, Natsuki! Why are you lagging? Natsuki thought quickly. Well, Chika, you're so popular. If I walk too close, we might end up in the tabloids. Then your admirers might corner me in an alley and I'd end up in the hospital. Better keep my distance, you know. That's ridiculous. Chika protested, while Kaguya stifled a laugh. They soon found themselves outside the school gates. After a brisk 10-minute walk, Natsuki brought them to a stop in front of a colorful building, music and electronic sounds spilling out onto the street. We're here, he announced. Welcome to the game center. Kaguya looked at the unfamiliar environment with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. So this is where arcade games are played. Natsuki nodded. Japan is actually the birthplace of arcade gaming. It's a big part of youth culture here. Chika bounced on her toes, eyes wide with excitement. It looks so fun. Can we go in? That's why we're here, Natsuki replied. Let's see if these games meet the mission requirements. As they stepped inside, the girls were immediately overwhelmed by the lights, sounds, and energy of the arcade. Kaguya tried to maintain her composure, but her eyes darted from machine to machine, taking in the new experience. Now, Natsuki said, leading them to a specific section, these are the fighting games I was talking about. Want to give it a try, Kaguya? As they climbed the stairs to the second floor, Natsuki briefly explained, arcade games were huge in the 80s and 90s. They're not as popular now, but Japan still has a decent player base. Turning the corner, they were greeted by a wall plastered with colorful game posters. Claw machines and capsule dispensers lined the sides. Chika's eyes widened in surprise. It's so clean. I thought it'd be dark and crowded, like some scary basement. Natsuki chuckled. That's just a stereotype. It's part of the service industry, they have to keep it clean, or no one would come. As they passed a VR area, Chika's attention was caught by a girl wearing a helmet, seemingly hunting for underwater treasure on a big screen. Ooh, what's that? She asked excitedly. VR games, Natsuki explained. The equipment here is much better than home setups. Chika clasped her hands together. I want to try. Maybe later, Natsuki said, guiding them to an arcade cabinet. We're here for fighting games, remember? He booted up Street Fighter IV and quickly explained the basic controls. It's probably best if you both choose the same character to start, he advised, stepping back. Give it a shot. Kaguya and Chika sat down at the machine, one on each side. Okay, you can insert coins now, Natsuki prompted. Chika looked confused. What do we vote for? Natsuki stifled a laugh. No, not vote. There's a coin slot by your legs. Put in a 100 yen coin. Oh. Chika started rummaging through her pockets. Wait, where's my wallet? Kaguya sighed. You left it in your school bag, remember? Chika's face fell. Oh no. I can't believe I forgot. Natsuki shook his head, amused. Don't worry, I've got some spare change. Here, he said, handing each of them a coin. Kaguya examined the coin curiously before carefully inserting it into the slot. The machine came to life with a burst of sound and flashing lights. Now what? Kaguya asked, her usual composure slightly shaken by the unfamiliar situation. Choose your characters, Natsuki instructed. Then you'll fight each other. Remember, the goal is to see if this counts for the mission. As the girls tentatively began navigating the character selection screen, Natsuki couldn't help but smile. Watching these two privileged students fumble with something as common as an arcade game was certainly an interesting sight. Ready? He asked as they finally settled on their characters. Let the battle begin. Chapter 25. Chika looked at Natsuki with pleading eyes. I left in such a hurry, I forgot my wallet. Could you spare some change? Natsuki sighed and handed her a 100 yen coin. Noticing Kaguya's expectant look, he asked, don't tell me you forgot yours too. Kaguya lifted her chin slightly. I never bring money when I go out. Natsuki blinked in surprise. Then how do you get to school? What about lunch? I have a driver, Kaguya replied matter-of-factly. And the chef brings lunch. Shaking his head in disbelief, Natsuki handed Kaguya a coin as well. Here you go, Your Highness, he said with a hint of sarcasm. The girls inserted their coins and, with Natsuki's guidance, selected their characters. They both chose Jamie for fairness. Ready, Kaguya? Chika said, her face set in determination. I won't go easy on you. Kaguya nodded, her eyes fixed on the screen. As they played, Natsuki watched with amusement. Their lack of experience was evident, and he couldn't help but think he could easily beat both of them combined. After Chika's defeat, she sighed contentedly. That was fun. Natsuki turned to Kaguya. Well? How'd it go? A spark of excitement flashed in Kaguya's eyes. The 100 defeats mission has made some progress. They played a few more rounds, but Kaguya's progress stalled at 1%. It seems each person only counts once, she mused. Natsuki, you should play. Natsuki raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? You'll lose. Kaguya's eyes narrowed. You're quite confident. What followed was a series of crushing defeats for Kaguya. After the fifth loss, Chika started providing enthusiastic commentary, mimicking the game's sound effects. Fujiwara. Kaguya snapped, her composure slipping. Chika covered her mouth, eyes wide with innocence. Sorry. You just looked so serious, I wanted to lighten the mood. Kaguya turned back to Natsuki, a fire burning in her eyes. One more round. Natsuki couldn't help but smile at her determination. The prim and proper Kaguya Shinomiya, getting fired up over an arcade game, it was a sight to behold. All right, he said, cracking his knuckles. Let's see what you've learned. As they started another match, Chika cheered from the sidelines, while Kaguya's fingers flew over the controls with newfound intensity. The game center, once quiet, now echoed with the sounds of their heated battle. Kaguya's competitive spirit was burning bright. As a genius, she'd always held herself to the highest standards in everything she did. Losing 5 games in a row was more than just embarrassing, it was unacceptable. One more round, she insisted, her eyes blazing with determination. Natsuki shook his head. I think we should call it quits. We'll be late for class if we stay any longer. Chika, who had been watching intently, checked her phone and gasped. Oh no, he's right. We need to hurry back. Kaguya hesitated, torn between her desire to even the score and her sense of duty. Finally, she sighed and tucked a stray hair behind her ear. Very well. Let's go. The trio jogged back to school, making it just in time for class. As the day drew to a close, Chika approached Kaguya with a bright smile. I've talked to my friends. You can start the mission anytime. Kaguya frowned. Wait, what exactly did you tell them? That I'd find 100 friends to help you complete your task, of course. Chika beamed. Natsuki couldn't help but marvel at Chika's social prowess. Less than a month into the school year, and she could rally 100 friends at a moment's notice? It was almost scary. Kaguya's frown deepened. Your friends might not be suitable. What do you mean? Chika asked, confused. Natsuki stepped in to explain. Your friends are all our schoolmates, right? When Chika nodded, he continued, well, Kaguya can be a bit intimidating at school. Kaguya shot him a dangerous look. I mean, she's like a rare mountain flower, Natsuki quickly corrected himself. Most students avoid her like mice avoiding a cat. If you ask them to do this mission with her, they'll probably be too nervous to meet the requirements. He silently added to himself that Kaguya's family background, beauty and aura, while invisible, were very real factors that set her apart from others. Chika's face fell as she realized the problem. Oh. I didn't think of that. Kaguya sighed, a hint of frustration in her voice. We need to find a way to complete this mission without relying on our schoolmates. Any ideas? Natsuki pondered for a moment. What if we went back to the arcade? You could challenge strangers there. They wouldn't know who you are, so they might be less intimidated. Kaguya's eyes lit up at the suggestion. That might actually work. But I'll need more practice first. I refuse to embarrass myself like that again. I can help you practice. Chika offered enthusiastically. We can use my console at home. As they discussed their new plan, Natsuki couldn't help but smile. Who would have thought that a simple mission would lead the elite Kaguya Shinomiya to become invested in arcade fighting games? We need to verify this, Natsuki said. Fujiwara, can you ask someone to check it out? Leave it to me. Chika scanned the classroom, waving to a short-haired girl. Asuka-chan, come here. Natsuki recognized Asuka Kashiwagi, the classmate who'd stumbled upon them yesterday. Me. Asuka pointed at herself nervously. Yes, you. Hurry up. Asuka approached cautiously, eyeing Kaguya warily. Any club activities today? Chika asked brightly. No. Perfect. I need a favor. What is it? Kaguya wants to play a game, and you'll be her opponent. Asuka paled, trembling slightly. I am sorry. I couldn't possibly be a match for Kaguya-san. Please, let me go. Despite her protests, Asuka found herself trailing after the group to the arcade. Relax, Chika insisted. We're just here to play games. The arcade was busier than this morning, but their previous machines were free. Kaguya sat down, and Chika directed Asuka to join her. Natsuki went to get coins while Chika explained the game basics. What happens if we lose? Asuka asked nervously. Natsuki handed over a coin. Don't worry. There's no penalty. Kaguya's just looking for someone to play with. Kaguya shot him a sharp look, clearly displeased with the implication. Oh okay, Asuka said, relieved. She inserted a coin and the game began. It ended quickly. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at this, Asuka apologized. It's my first time playing. That's okay. Chika handed her a drink. Here, to calm your nerves. She turned to Kaguya. So, how did it go? Chapter 26. Kaguya shook her head slightly. They'd won the game, but their mission progress hadn't budged. It was clear neither side was playing fair. This isn't working at all, Chika sighed, giving Natsuki a pitying look. What should we do now? Natsuki thought for a moment, his eyes landing on a young kid nearby. Kaguya, brace yourself. Your reputation is about to spread among the elementary schoolers. Hold on, Chika cut in, lowering her voice. If Asuka was terrified of Kaguya, won't little kids be even more scared? Good point, Natsuki groaned. If only Kaguya's eyes weren't so intense. Kaguya crossed her arms, her face expressionless. I'm so sorry my gaze is too fierce for you. Hey, owning up to your faults is admirable. Kaguya's eyes narrowed dangerously. Okay, please stop looking at me like you're planning my demise. I'm calling the cops. Don't bother. I'll erase all evidence. The police will be useless. I might have an idea. The trio turned towards the timid voice. Natsuki blinked in surprise. Asuka? You're still here. Kaguya hasn't dismissed me yet, Asuka mumbled, sounding slightly hurt. Natsuki thought, geez, even leaving requires Kaguya's permission? How scared is she? Kaguya's cold voice cut through the air. Asuka, you may go now. Wait. Chika waved her hands. Asuka, didn't you say you had a way to make kids less afraid of Kaguya? Asuka nodded shyly. Well. Kaguya's eyes are quite intimidating. Maybe try some plain glasses? It could soften your gaze and make you less scary. She continued, gaining confidence. And your hairstyle, long, straight black hair can seem a bit aloof. Something cuter might help, like a bun or high ponytail. Oh. And swap the uniform for a white dress. Asuka's eyes lit up as she warmed to the topic. Kaguya's already gorgeous. If she goes for a sweet, cute look, elementary kids won't be scared at all. They might even adore her. Asuka, you're brilliant. Chika exclaimed, eyes sparkling. No wonder your mom's a world-famous designer. Their palms met in an enthusiastic high five. Natsuki nodded. Asuka, you're really something. Asuka's face flushed at his praise. Oh, no. It's just that Kaguya is naturally adorable. Exactly. Chika, ever the go-getter, spun around. Come on, Kaguya, let's hit the mall. Kaguya pinched the bridge of her nose. I don't think. But Chika had already linked arms with her. Let's go. There's a mall just downstairs, Natsuki called after them. You guys go ahead. I'll round up some elementary schoolers. Chika shot him a worried look. Careful how you phrase that, Natsuki. Someone might get the wrong idea. After the girls left, Natsuki bought a box of snacks and approached some kids playing games. So, I've got this little sister who's always picking on me, he began, trying to sound sincere. She steals my food, my comics, even jumps on my stomach. It's getting out of hand. I need to teach her a lesson. He held up the snacks. If you play Street Fighter with her later, these Miji mushroom chocolates are yours. Beat her, and I'll triple it. One kid looked confused. Why ask us for help? We're just kids. Because she looks down on elementary schoolers, Natsuki lied, playing up the drama. Says you're all weak. If you beat her, it'll knock her down a peg. Show her there's always someone better out there. Don't underestimate us. The kid exclaimed. I'm in. Natsuki added, she's pretty good, though. Might want to bring some friends. Same reward for everyone. Give me a SEC, I'll get my classmates. 10 minutes later, Kaguya walked in. She wore huge black framed glasses that covered half her face. Her long hair was tied up in a bun with a red ribbon, and she'd swapped her uniform for a white dress. The makeover worked wonders. Gone was the untouchable ice queen. In her place stood sweet, approachable Kaguya. As soon as she entered, she noticed a group of kids staring at her intently. That's her. The mean sister. She thinks we're weak? We'll show her. A question mark practically appeared over Kaguya's head. How on earth had she become public enemy number one to a bunch of elementary schoolers? A little boy stepped forward boldly, like a hero facing a dragon. Are you the big Mina who bullies our big bro every day? Hey! Kaguya's lips pursed as she glanced at Natsuki. How had she become the villain in the span of a costume change? Yep, that's her, Natsuki nodded, playing along. She's all yours, kids. The boy's face grew serious. I'm gonna beat you and save our big bro. Admirable spirit, Kaguya replied coolly, deciding to roll with it. I'll give you a chance to try. Chika sidled up to Natsuki, curiosity written all over her face. What did you tell them? How's Kaguya suddenly the bad guy? I'm wondering that too, Asuka chimed in, eyes sparkling with interest. Oh, you know, just a little story to get them fired up, Natsuki shrugged. The match began, A&D. The kid lost, tears welling up in his eyes. I'm sorry, big bro, he sniffled. I couldn't do it. Hey, she's a tough opponent, Natsuki consoled him. Keep practicing, and maybe you'll beat her next time. Meanwhile, Kaguya's defeat 100 opponents mission ticked up by 1. Being the quick study she was, Kaguya had picked up gaming fast. The tricks Natsuki taught her that morning were paying off. I'll take her on next. Another kid jumped up. As the sun began to set, Kaguya's mission progress steadily climbed until she finally hit her goal. Phew, Kaguya sighed, fatigue creeping into her features. Beating 100 opponents, even kids, was no small feat. Nice work, Natsuki said, offering her a bottle of green tea. Kaguya took a sip of her drink, then looked up at Natsuki with a half smile. So, Natsuki, I'm curious. Why do those kids keep calling me the devil? Care to explain? Oh, that's a long story, Natsuki said, trying to keep a straight face. So I think I'll pass on telling it. Sit. Kaguya pointed at the stool beside her. One more round, she said, screwing the bottle cap back on. Beat me, and I'll drop the whole devil thing. Natsuki sighed. Still hung up on losing this morning, hey? Not at all, Kaguya replied, her face a mask. Then why keep playing? I hate losing. Natsuki thought, geez, 5 losses really got to her. Talk about competitive. You must be exhausted after all that, he said. Why don't we call it a day and pick this up tomorrow? No need, Kaguya said confidently, arms crossed. I'm fine. I've heard some people game all night. This is nothing. If you insist. Natsuki sat down. Just don't cry when you lose. As if. The battle began. Kaguya was brimming with confidence. She'd just beaten 99 kids in a row. Surely she wasn't the same rookie from this morning. Time to wipe away the shame of those 5 losses. A few moments later, Chika returned, clutching a box of strawberry mochi. She stopped short. Whoa, Kaguya, are you crying? I'm not, Kaguya insisted, biting her lip. You're seeing things. Nuh-uh, Chika said. You definitely looked ready to burst into tears just now. Drop it, Chika, Natsuki cut in, standing up and taking a drink. Where's Asuka? Oh, she said it was getting late, Chika chirped. Something about needing to be home by 6, so she took off. Chapter 27. Natsuki glanced out the window as the sun began to set, casting a dim glow over the evening sky. That's enough for today, Kaguya, he said, picking up his school bag. I'm heading home. Kaguya took a deep breath to compose herself, then looked directly at Natsuki. Come back tomorrow, she said, her voice tinged with determination. Chika piped up, Kaguya, what's the reward for the mission? Kaguya frowned slightly as a miniature bow materialized in her hand. This is it, she said, presenting the weapon. Name, Maiko's sharpshooter. Type, weapon. Passive ability, seal the demon. When an arrow hits a vengeful spirit, it will cause a small amount of damage and there is a certain chance to seal it. The worse the vengeful spirit's condition, the higher the success rate. Note, this equipment has been bound and can only be used by the player Kaguya. Note, ADC must die, you will be the first to attract hatred, please be mentally prepared at all times. Natsuki considered the weapon. Well, at least it can hurt evil spirits, he said. That's better than a suspicious pack of tissues. Chika puffed out her cheeks in annoyance. Natsuki, stop bringing up that tissue thing. Okay, Natsuki conceded. But it does attract hatred first, so it seems really dangerous, Chika said worriedly. Kaguya, you can't just shoot it around randomly. I know, Kaguya assured her with a nod. Chika tapped her chin thoughtfully. It's kind of like Pokemon, you have to defeat them before you can capture them with the Master Ball. Natsuki sighed. So the question is, how do we defeat those evil spirits? The three exchanged a heavy silence, unable to come up with an answer. After a moment, Natsuki bid the girls goodbye and headed home, the evening passing in quiet contemplation. The next morning, Natsuki went through his usual routine of waking up, getting ready, and heading to school. When he entered the classroom, Kaguya and Chika were already there. Good morning, Natsuki, Chika said, looking distraught. That long-haired evil spirit is back by my bed, staring at me all night. I wish I could just sleep with you instead. Sorry, but guys and girls can't do that, Natsuki replied. Chika's face fell. Ah, I'm being rejected. Kaguya gently rubbed her temples, dark circles visible under her eyes. Let's open the blind boxes. Some classmates will be coming in soon. Chika's blind box contained an ordinary item, Farmer's 3-punch mineral water. At least it's not a weird tissue, Chika said, relieved. I used up all my luck yesterday, so I'm not expecting much today. Next, it was Kaguya's turn. Her blind box only held a worn-out pencil, much to her disappointment. Finally, it was Natsuki's blind box. Natsuki's eyes widened as he looked at the skill revealed in his blind box. Skill, Crime Buster. Outlaw Zhang-san, you are under arrest. Introduction, as long as you make physical contact with the lawless criminal Zhang-san, he will be 100% surrendered. Hey? Outlaw Zhang-san! Chika exclaimed, her eyes going wide. That name sounds familiar. Kaguya reminded her, you gained that skill a couple days ago, remember? Chika's face lit up with realization as she slapped her forehead. Oh right. I can change someone's name to Outlaw Zhang-san. Do you think we could use the skills together? Natsuki glanced at Kaguya. Guess you'll have to try it to find out. Chika eagerly looked to Kaguya. Kaguya, shall we give it a shot? I refuse, Kaguya said firmly, her eyelashes fluttering slightly. There was no way she was surrendering to a boy. Natsuki was about to speak when his expression suddenly turned serious. A deep, raspy voice echoed in his mind. The game will start in 5 minutes, please be ready. Game loading completed. Current scene, Qingshan Hospital. Natsuki opened his eyes and looked around the dilapidated hospital ward. The flickering lights above cast an eerie glow, and he realized he was alone. Hey? Where are Fujiwara and Kaguya? He murmured, feeling the chill in the air. Natsuki's eyes landed on the game panel that had appeared. You have obtained the main task, please click to view. So it's a virtual screen, but I can't actually click it, Natsuki muttered, staring at it for a moment before the task details materialized. Main mission, survive for 24 hours. Nurses will randomly check on you every hour. During this time, please do not stay in the corridor. Tips, there are side quests to complete in this scene, please explore on your own. Warm tips, this scene contains a hidden world view, and you will get rich rewards after cracking it. Warm tips, please maintain a good relationship with your roommates to ensure your own safety. Natsuki raised an eyebrow at the last tip. Roommates? But I'm alone here. Suddenly, the old TV in the corner flickered to life, electricity crackling through the speakers. Natsuki turned to see an image slowly appearing, a dilapidated old well deep in a forest, surrounded by fallen leaves. Natsuki watched in horror as a pale, bloodied hand emerged from the old well on the TV, followed by a woman with long, obscuring hair crawling out. His heart raced as he recognized this as the terrifying figure of Sadeko. No way, Sadeko as my roommate. Natsuki whispered, aghast. He quickly moved to flee the ward, but stopped when he saw the pitch-black corridor outside, warning him not to enter. Natsuki reluctantly closed the door and turned his attention back to the TV. Sadeko had crawled all the way out and was now standing before him, her blood-stained clothes and long, unkempt hair creating an unsettling atmosphere. Natsuki's eyes involuntarily drifted downward, and he was surprised to see that Sadeko's figure was more bountiful than the legends suggested. Wait, in the original story she was supposed to be. Suddenly, an information prompt appeared before him. Name, Sadeko. Company, Himura Dairy. Age, unknown. Milk volume, unspeakable. Through your secret observation, you successfully discovered two weaknesses of Miss Sadeko. Miss Sadeko has developed severe social phobia because she has lived alone for too long. Hint, look into Miss Sadeko's eyes with deep affection. Natsuki's brow furrowed as he read the peculiar details. Seriously? Her weaknesses are, that? And I'm supposed to look at her with affection. He shook his head, unsettled by the whole situation. This was certainly not how he expected his day to go. Chapter 28 Power Stone Bonus Chapter. Even the best actor wouldn't be able to look at Miss Sadeko affectionately. Where is the severe social anxiety coming from? Why is Miss Sadeko walking towards me step by step, about to get right in my face? Natsuki took a deep breath and calmed down. There's no way I can go out there. The dark hallway is obviously very dangerous. Natsuki pondered for a moment. In that case, Miss Sadeko, I'm going to show you a real treasure. He slipped his hands into his pockets. Miss Sadeko suddenly stopped, the black hair covering her cheeks trembling slightly. A big baby? What does this guy want to do? When other people see her, they all hide in the corners trembling. Why isn't he following the rules? Miss Sadeko's thoughts raced. Could he be a pervert? She even took a step back, growing more nervous. Don't move. Natsuki pulled out a wooden comb from his pocket and said seriously, let me give you a middle part. The perfect center-parted comb. As long as there's hair, it will be combed into a perfect middle part. Seeing Miss Sadeko's thick black hair covering her cheeks, Natsuki felt the comb in his hand practically thirsting for it. The moment it touched her hair, his hand seemed to take on a mind of its own, moving rapidly and leaving after images. In just a few seconds, the flawless, girlish middle part hairstyle was complete. Hey! Natsuki had expected Miss Sadeko's face to be terrifying, or even without a face at all. But instead, she looked quite beautiful with her hair combed back. Aside from her pale, bloodless complexion, her eyes were just like an ordinary person's, clear black and white. There was even a teardrop mole under her left eye. She had the face of a delicate lady that made you want to coddle her. Miss Sadeko was stunned, having no idea how her hair had been combed so quickly. Her expression was one of pure bewilderment. Natsuki looked directly into Miss Sadeko's eyes. Their gazes met. Miss Sadeko, with her face now visible, trembled slightly as her social anxiety kicked in. Panicked, she averted her gaze, covering her face and running towards the TV. Don't run! Natsuki raised an eyebrow and called out, we're roommates, what are you afraid of? But Miss Sadeko completely ignored him, running to the TV and disappearing back into the ancient well. The room was empty. Natsuki silently put the middle part comb back in his pocket. Guess I'll have to handle this roommate situation pretty well then. No more worrying about backstabbing. Natsuki waited quietly in the ward for a while, noticing the lights in the hallway growing brighter. He walked out and looked up, his room number was 404. Click. The ward nearby opened, and a petite girl wearing an eye mask and with disheveled hair walked out. She was obviously another player. Tears were welling up in her eyes, ready to spill over at any moment. Natsuki observed silently, but didn't see Fujiwara or Kaguya. After a moment's hesitation, he prepared to ask the girl player in front of him for information. May I have your name? The aloof girl's eyes were brimming with tears. Little bird swim. Name. The evil king's true eye envoy. You just said your last name is Rika Takanashi. The girl with the silly hair took a half step back and pressed down on her eye mask with her right hand. My real name represents power, I can't just tell it to others easily. Natsuki was silent for 2 seconds, suddenly feeling that this silly-haired girl wasn't very bright. Are you the only one in the ward? There's one more. Natsuki raised an eyebrow. The other one is also a player. No. The girl with the cowlick shook her head, looking nervously at the door behind her. It's a scary vengeful spirit. It can talk. It said it's hungry and told me to go find food. If I can't find any, it'll get angry. The consequences of its anger are very serious. Meanwhile, unlucky players kept emerging from the wards one after another, but Fujiwara Chika and Shinomiya Kaguya were still nowhere to be seen. After a brief discussion with everyone, Natsuki roughly understood the rules of the game. Each player appears in an initial ward and is paired with a fellow patient. The patients aren't human, they're evil spirits or something similar. They have obvious malice towards the players, but won't attack directly. Instead, they'll torment the players in various ways to deepen their fears. The light will only last 10 minutes. The dark corridors are particularly dangerous. Players have to stay in the wards most of the time. If they want to avoid getting hurt, they have to build good relationships with their fellow patients by satisfying their terrible demands. Like how the silly-haired girl was asked to go find food for the vengeful spirit in her ward. Natsuki thought of Miss Sadeko, who was in his ward. She had hidden in the well out of social phobia and refused to come out no matter how much he called. Did that mean his ward had become a safe room where he could just lie down forever? But of course, he couldn't just lie down right away, since Fujiwara and Kaguya still hadn't been found. Natsuki looked around the corridor, which was lined with wards on both sides. Should I push the doors and search room by room? It's too dangerous, the silly-haired girl quickly warned. Natsuki shook his head, pushing the thought away. In that case, we need to first figure out which ward Fujiwara and Kaguya are in. With his thoughts racing, Natsuki quickly sorted things out and started walking down the corridor. The silly-haired girl followed closely behind him. Why are you following me? Natsuki stopped and looked back at her. Rika Takanashi raised her eyes and said solemnly, Destiny is guiding me. Natsuki frowned. Let's get to the point. Oh. Rika's drooping hair made her look dejected. I don't know where to find food. You're already a seasoned player, and you're the evil king's true eye envoy, which sounds very powerful. Solve your own problems. Well, my evil king's true eye can't be used right now because I overused it. Rika's expression was pitiful, like a helpless little animal about to be abandoned. Senior, you look like a reliable good person I can depend on. Bad people never have badness written on their faces. The last time I met Sister Yukinashita, she said the same thing. After some questioning, Natsuki learned that the middle school girl in front of him had just completed one game and was still a fresh new player. Her reason for passing the previous level wasn't because of her own beauty and wisdom, but thanks to the great player she had met, a girl with long black hair named Yukinashita. Compared to the other players with pale, panicked expressions, Natsuki was quite calm, very much like that thick-browed girl Yukinashita. So Rika decided to continue clinging to his coattails. As they were talking, a nurse's rest station appeared before them. Under the dim, cold light stood a young nurse in a white uniform. She had a good figure, but unfortunately her clothes were stained with dark brown blood, and her face was wrapped in blood-soaked gauze, making her very unappealing. And she was holding a thick syringe, no player dared to approach her. Just now, a player who called himself the tyrant of Nangong family had gone over there and got shot the moment he opened his mouth. He was still lying on the ground. Natsuki stared at the scene for a few seconds, and a prompt appeared before him. You found the haggard-faced nurse. You have seen through the opponent's weakness. As the lowliest hospital employee, doing the most tiring work for the lowest pay and endless night shifts, the nurse wants to commit suicide daily. This nurse hates night shifts the most and doesn't want to talk to patients. As long as they stay quiet and don't make noise, the nurse will turn a blind eye. Seeing this, Natsuki prepared to approach the nurse's station. Senior. Rika anxiously grabbed the corner of Natsuki's clothes. Stay quiet. Natsuki raised a finger, gesturing for silence. Wait for me here, don't make any noise. Rika covered her mouth with both hands and nodded seriously. Natsuki then turned and steadily walked towards the nurse's station. Some players were shocked to witness this. The other players watched in shock as Natsuki approached the nurse's station. What is that boy doing? One player asked. You knew you'd get an injection, but you still dared to go there. You'll die, right? Maybe he received a mission he had to complete, and there was nothing he could do. Another player wondered. Wait, why is he okay? Under the stunned gazes of the two unlucky players, Natsuki leisurely made his way to the nurse's station and started rummaging through things in front of the haggard-faced nurse. Found it, he said, quickly locating a worksheet that recorded the patient admission information for each ward. He was in Ward 404. Chika Fujiwara was in Ward 405. Shinomiya Kaguya was in room 406. Right next to him. After getting the specific information about the two girls, Natsuki turned and left the duty desk. The nurse had turned a blind eye the entire time. How come that guy is okay? One player asked in disbelief. Is he invisible? Another wondered. Impossible. The nurse clearly looked right at him just now, the first player responded, equally confused. Chapter 29 Power Stone Bonus Chapter. Rika Takanashi breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly followed behind Natsuki. I'm glad you're okay. But why were you able to do that just now? Natsuki bluntly replied, Don't ask me, use your invincible Evil King's true eyes to see the truth. The Evil King's true eyes are still sealed, I can't see the truth, Rika admitted. They walked back down the corridor. Time was running out, the lights quickly dimming as darkness was about to fall. Natsuki approached Ward 405, raising his hand to knock on the door. Knocking before entering a room, basic etiquette. After a few seconds, Natsuki gently turned the doorknob and pushed the door open. His eyes immediately landed on Fujiwara Chika, who was down to just her underwear. Excuse me, goodbye, Natsuki quickly said, backing out. The corridor was growing gloomy with the approaching darkness. Natsuki let out a light breath and entered Ward 405. Rika hurried to catch up, the door slamming shut behind her. It was the same dark, dreary ward, but without a TV, only a low card table and a dried bat specimen on the wall. Fujiwara Chika was kneeling by the table. Across from her was her roommate, a bad girl with twin ponytails, heavy smoky makeup, a curvaceous figure, and a perverted smile, with a blood-stained baseball bat beside her. Harley Quinn! Rika exclaimed, eyes wide. That couldn't be right, Harley Quinn was a DC supervillain, she wouldn't be playing games with Fujiwara Chika. This was likely just a Harley Quinn cosplayer, judging by her lack of a six-pack abs. The vengeful-looking woman didn't seem angry. She just tilted her head and regarded them with a frightening smile, licking her lips with the tip of her tongue. Look what I found. 2 more cuties. Let's play games together. What a long tongue. An idea subconsciously formed in Natsuki's mind. It's kinda cool to know how to tie a cherry knot, right? Literally tie a knot in the cherry, don't get too excited. Natsuki shook off his wandering thoughts, his eyes landing on Chika, and he couldn't help but ask in a slightly amused tone, so, you're playing the pretty girl sticker game. Chika stood there, wearing only her underwear, a white bra and a cute pink pair with a giant panda on it. Her school uniform, shoes, stockings, skirt, bracelet, all gone. Natsuki's gaze drifted downward for a moment. She seemed like a girl with a bit of extra softness, but her waist was surprisingly slim. I didn't even get close to winning. Chika's eyes filled with tears as she blurted out, I lost all my clothes. What does stick-on mean? Rika asked quietly, her curiosity piqued. This is not something kids should know about, Natsuki replied seriously, you don't need to ask. Chika recounted her experience with a sense of defeat. After entering the game, she found herself alone in a ward. Before she could leave, a ghost dressed like Harley Quinn appeared and forced her into a ghost card game. The rules were simple and clear. But the loser had to give up something: clothes, skin, flesh, teeth, eyes. It was a ghost game, not for fun. What could Chika do? She lost the game and had no choice but to strip, leaving her with just her bra and underwear. Natsuki glanced at Harley Quinn, who was fully dressed, and sighed, "You didn't win a single game." "She must have cheated," Chika said, her voice even more aggrieved. "I never lose this badly when I play cards with my friends at school." "Oh, darling, don't accuse without proof, or you might lose your tongue," Harley Quinn warned with a dangerous smile, swinging a blood-stained baseball bat. "Cheating is strictly forbidden at the poker table. Even I can't break that rule." "So, cheating is fine as long as it's not at the poker table?" Natsuki noticed a prompt to cheat appear in front of him and grinned. "Let me join in." "This game looks interesting, I want to give it a shot." "Such an intriguing human," Harley Quinn remarked, surprised but delighted. "All right, but first, the game between me and this cutie isn't over yet. It's my turn now." Chika nervously held up the cards in her hand. Only two were left, the Five of Hearts and the Joker. This was the final moment. Which one will it be? Harley Quinn's smile grew more intense as her fingers danced between the two cards. "It's gotta be this one." Miss Ghost's finger hovered over the little devil card. As soon as Chika let her guard down, Miss Ghost made a swift move, instantly taking away the girl's most precious thing. "I lost again." Chika let out a small, pitiful cry and dropped to her knees in frustration. "My dear, it seems luck isn't on your side today," Miss Ghost teased with a smile. "Now, pants or top? You've got 1 minute to decide. If you take too long, I'll choose for you." Chika bit her lower lip, feeling utterly defeated. She was down to just her underwear. No matter what she chose, it would be humiliating. But she couldn't break the game's rules. If she had to choose, "I'll never be able to get married like this." Chika covered her chest with her hands, her eyes pleading as she looked at Natsuki. "Natsuki, should we use that trick?" "You can try it," Natsuki nodded. Chika's eyes widened as she pointed at Miss Ghost. "Outlaw Jong-san, I'm calling you. Do you dare to respond?" "Who is Jong-san?" Miss Ghost looked confused. Suddenly, she found herself unable to control her body, her mouth moving on its own. "Yes, that's right. I am the lawless criminal, Jong-san." Natsuki walked up to Miss Ghost, placing his hands on her shoulders. Suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind. The trick worked. A 100% success rate in capturing the other party, and the ability to control them entirely as long as they call themselves Outlaw Jong-san. "Outlaw Jong-san, you're under arrest," Natsuki said in a serious tone. Miss Ghost tried to resist but found her body wouldn't move. She could only look around helplessly. "Who on earth is Jong-san?" "I'm not. I am the lawless criminal, Jong-san. Actually, I'm a time-space policeman. My real mission here is to capture you," Natsuki continued with a straight face. "Jong-san is a multiverse-level criminal, possessing the most dangerous criminal mind, skilled in countless illegal methods, and responsible for countless heinous crimes. I've traveled through countless worlds, always chasing your footsteps, Outlaw Jong-san. Your end is near." "Wow, that's incredible." Rika's eyes sparkled with admiration. "You humans are full of lies. Many of my friends have been fooled by you." "I won't fall for it," Miss Ghost sneered. "Your minute is almost up." "Hey!" Natsuki froze for a moment and looked over at Chika. The innocent girl stared back, equally confused. Then, in an instant, Chika's already wide eyes grew even larger as she reached behind her. "Wait, my hands are moving on their own." Chika gasped in panic. "Natsuki, close your eyes, don't look at me. I'll never get married now." Chika knelt in the corner, covering her chest with both hands, and a faint steam seemed to rise from her head. "If a boy sees your naked body, you can't get married anymore." "I have my eyes closed." "What's the point if you're just closing one eye?" This was their first attempt at working together, and it went pretty well, but it also revealed some issues. First, Chika mentioned that the forced name change only works for one person. If you try to call a second person Jong-san, the first person's name reverts to normal. Then there was the issue with Natsuki. He could capture the spirit, but he couldn't destroy it. For instance, the vengeful Harley Quinn in front of him was clearly not convinced and kept shouting that she'd get back at him later. In simple terms, he could control the spirit's body, but not its soul. Although Natsuki wasn't too concerned with the soul and found it thrilling to see the vengeful spirit speaking one way but acting another, it was still risky. The ideal solution would be to eliminate the spirit entirely, but they didn't have that capability. Thinking of this, Natsuki wondered about Kaguya and whether her weapon would work. "Where's Kaguya?" Chika asked as she got dressed. "Why didn't she come with you?" Natsuki shook his head. "Kaguya isn't with me. We're all in separate rooms. She should be next door." "Then we have to find her right away," Chika urged. "You know, Kaguya may act fearless, but she won't even watch a horror movie alone. We can't leave just yet. The corridor's dangerous when it's dark." After briefly explaining what had just happened, Natsuki's gaze returned to the ghostly Harley Quinn. There was still some time before the darkness lifted, so with nothing better to do, he thought he might as well take advantage of the situation. "Human, what are you planning?" Miss Ghost's voice was wary. "Let's play a game," Natsuki said, releasing her shoulder and pointing at Chika. "Chika is my apprentice, trained by me." "Hey!" Chika looked over, surprised. Current power stones, 163. For every 15 power stones, one bonus chapter will be uploaded on the same day. Target, 178. Chapter 30 Power Stone Bonus Chapter. "When did I become your apprentice? And how come I didn't know about it?" Chika asked, clearly puzzled. "You've lost to her so many times in a row. If people find out, where would my pride go?" Natsuki said, crossing his fingers as if in deep thought. "I have to win back for my dignity. So this is all about your pride." Chika huffed, pouting. "Give me back that confidence boost." "Foolish human," Miss Ghost sneered, sitting down at the gambling table and licking her lips. "You'll regret that decision soon enough. I'm just gonna hit the bathroom real quick." Natsuki was back in under a minute. "Can we start now?" Miss Ghost asked, her tone impatient. "Sure thing," Natsuki nodded, moving to sit down. "Hold on." Chika quickly pulled him aside, standing on tiptoe to whisper in his ear, her tone a bit worried. "You shouldn't be so cocky. If you lose, you'll lose control over your body." "Relax," Natsuki whispered back with a grin. "I cheated." "Hey? Wait, what?" Natsuki walked over and took his seat across from the card table. Chika and Rika knelt beside them, watching the game with bated breath. The deck had 54 cards, but they removed the big joker, leaving just the little joker. After a quick shuffle, the game began. There wasn't much to explain. Each player took turns drawing a card, discarding pairs as they went. The game moved fast, and soon they were down to the final draw. "Human, you're destined to lose," Miss Ghost said with a wicked grin. This time, she didn't pull any tricks like she had with Chika. She simply reached out and drew a card from Natsuki's hand. "This table has a special ability. As long as one player doesn't want the game to end, it won't. Let's see how many layers you've got." "Maybe you should look at the card you drew before making threats," Natsuki suggested calmly. Miss Ghost glanced down, her eyes widening in shock. "What? How is this possible?" She'd drawn the devil card. "You lose," Natsuki said, tossing his remaining cards onto the table. "Time to pay up." How did we win?" Chika asked, still in disbelief. Natsuki leaned back and said in a deep voice, "Back in the day, they called me the god of gamblers in Sky Province. It wasn't until I took a shot to the knee that I had to give up that life." "Amazing." Rika's eyes sparkled with admiration, practically turning into stars. Miss Ghost looked down at herself, hesitation written all over her face. For the game, she was dressed as Harley Quinn, with colorful twin ponytails, thick smoky makeup, a cropped shirt showing her midriff, and super short denim shorts, a pretty bold look. "Here," Miss Ghost said, handing over her bloody baseball bat. Natsuki took the bat and said, "The game continues." A few moments later, Miss Ghost lost again, her frustration boiling over. "This is impossible. How could you beat me?" "A loss is a loss," Natsuki said, unfazed. "It's a game nobody wins all the time." The minute-long countdown ended, and Miss Ghost, unable to do anything else, reluctantly began to remove her shirt. Natsuki sighed, disappointed. You're an evil spirit, and you're still wearing underwear? How underwhelming. Let's go again. There's no way I'll lose this time. Miss Ghost declared, covering her chest, her determination unwavering. Wait, can evil spirits even feel shy? Chika asked, tilting her head in curiosity. Of course not. Miss Ghost shot back. Then maybe don't cover yourself while saying that, Chika teased. The game resumed. Miss Ghost lost again, and this time, she had to take off her denim shorts. Just like Chika, she was now down to her last piece of clothing. This can't be happening. Miss Ghost's chest heaved as she struggled to accept her defeat. Human, you must be cheating. Cheating's a skill too, as long as I don't get caught, Natsuki replied coolly. So, how exactly do you think I cheated? I'll remember you, human. Miss Ghost hissed before her body disappeared, leaving behind a card that fell from the air. What the? Natsuki picked up the card, curious. It turned out to be a summoning card that could call upon the ghost of Harley Quinn to aid in a fight, but it was a one-time use. Great, just what I needed, a loss in the long run. The trick was simple, really. The bat specimens on the wall weren't just decorations, they were parts of evil spirits. They allowed Miss Ghost to peek through the wall, which was why Chika kept losing. As we all know, bats have terrible eyesight. Once Natsuki figured out this weakness, he went to the bathroom and did a quick cheat by marking his thumb, nearly winning her last piece of clothing in the process. The corridor's getting brighter, Chika exclaimed softly, noticing the change in the atmosphere. Let's hurry and find Kaguya-chan. The three of them headed to the corridor and knocked on the door of the next ward. Kaguya-chan, we're here to see you, hey. Chika was the first to enter, her eyes widening in shock. Why are there three Kaguya-chans? Natsuki paused, equally surprised to see three identical Kaguyas in the room. From their clothes to their expressions, they were all exactly the same. One Kaguya spoke first, looking pale. I was imitated. The second Kaguya declared, they're both fakes. And the third Kaguya added, every so often, another one shows up. They're both imposters. Not only could this thing imitate, but it could also multiply indefinitely. Natsuki's mind raced as he considered the situation. Maybe we should step back for a bit. He briefly imagined letting the imposters multiply until there were 500 Kaguyas, sending them off to work construction to earn enough money to buy a house in half a month. The thought almost made him laugh, but he knew they had to figure out how to deal with this for real. 1, 2, 3. Chika's eyes widened in disbelief as she quickly grabbed Natsuki's arm, pulling him closer. Look, Natsuki, there are three Kaguya-chans. I see them, Natsuki nodded calmly. 3 Kaguyas were manageable, but if there was ever a half Kaguya situation, that would be truly terrifying. They stepped into the ward. The Kaguya on the left spoke first, I'm the real one. The Kaguya in the middle countered, she's lying. The Kaguya on the right added, they're both fake. Don't worry, Kaguya-chan, Chika said with determination, clenching her fists. I'll definitely figure out which one is the real you. I mean, it would be great if they were all real, Natsuki mused, looking at the trio. Kaguya is a super genius. If we could gather 500 Kaguyas, society would leap forward by 500 years. That actually makes, wait, no, that's weird. Chika shook her head, snapping out of her momentary agreement. The monster isn't copying Kaguya-chan for fun. I saw a movie once where aliens imitated the heroine and eventually replaced her. We have to save Kaguya-chan before it's too late. Right, Natsuki agreed. But how do we figure out who's the real Kaguya? Chika pressed her fingers to her temples, deep in thought. I have an idea, Rika chimed in quietly. Ghosts shouldn't have body temperature, right? That's brilliant. Chika's eyes lit up. Natsuki, Rika, let's check their temperatures to see who's real. With 3 Kaguyas and 3 of them, it seemed like a perfect match. Natsuki approached the Kaguya in the middle. Everything about her height, hairstyle, facial expression, clothes was identical to the others. It was like they were triplets carved from the same mold. Kaguya-san, could you please extend your hand? Natsuki asked. Of course, she replied calmly, stretching out her left hand. Natsuki gently took her hand, feeling the faint warmth of her skin. It was smooth and soft, like the finest mutton fat jade. Her hands were beautiful, with snow-white skin and naturally pink fingertips, untouched by any nail polish, making them look almost appetizing. He couldn't resist giving her hand a slight squeeze. It was warm, soft, and oddly satisfying. He squeezed it again. And again. He just couldn't stop. "It's warm," Chika said, breaking the silence. "This one is the real Kaguya-chan." Rika chimed in next, "I can feel the temperature too." Finally, Natsuki added, "Same here." "Wait, what?" Chika's eyes widened in confusion. "They all have body temperature? Does that mean they're all the real Kaguya-chan?" "Obviously not," Natsuki replied calmly. "It just means that two of them can simulate body temperature." Rika's ahoji bobbed as she suggested, "Maybe try checking their breathing." "That's a good idea." A moment later, Chika crossed her arms and bit her lower lip, frustration evident on her face. "They're all breathing too. Try checking their heartbeat next." "There's no way they all have heartbeats, right?" "Kaguya-chan, don't move. I need to check your heartbeat," Chika said, stepping closer to the Kaguya in front of her and pressing her hand against her chest. Natsuki's eyes widened in shock. "Wait, seriously? You're checking that way?" Natsuki hesitated for a moment, then steeled himself. "Kaguya-san, I'm sorry, but this has to be done." He reached out his hand towards the Kaguya standing before him, his expression serious. Just as his fingers were about to make contact, Chika's voice rang out, cutting through the tension. "You're a fake Kaguya-chan." Chika pointed directly at the Kaguya in front of her, her voice firm and confident. The real Kaguya would never let a boy touch her like this to check her heartbeat. "You're definitely not Kaguya-chan." The Kaguya in front of Natsuki opened her mouth as if to protest, but before she could speak, cracks began to form across her face.
Thanks for listening.